This meeting is being recorded. Moving forward in life and learning how to get past having to cope. Hi, I'm CiCi with Wise Woman Evolving, and welcome. This is our monthly group for the May 2024 session. However, this will be good whenever you find it. So today's theme is going to be centered around moving forward in life. A lot came up that I've spoken with. People wanted to work on things around coping, how not to use food when with coping, finding ways to get into your own power. Which, when you're standing in your own power, it helps you avoid having to use coping mechanisms, because those are mechanisms, and obviously we know they don't always work. Dealing with the quiet or the unknown. I've had people request working on depression, competing needs, our meeting our own needs, just food and shelter, and being able to have less stress, get the right amount of rest and sleep. Um, I think part of it too, we're going to kind of throw up on the clipboard finding ways to get past trauma in life, because that often will um put something in. It'll add to the needing to feeling like we need to have a need for coping. So we're just going to kind of move forward in that. So I want everybody to take a sip of water. I like for you to keep your cells hydrated. They hold a formula a lot better that way, and it helps us be able to, when we have a good amount of hydration in the body and at the cellular level, then the body is better able to meet its own needs, and we don't feel like we have to cope, quote unquote. So if you don't have a glass of water with you, go ahead and pause, grab a glass of water, and go ahead and take a sip. And then I'd like everyone to go ahead and take a couple of deep breaths in and out and begin to relax. Something we're going to do here today, we're going to start off our session a little bit differently today. And what I'd like to do is teach you a technique that's called tapping out your cortices, or the different cortexes, or the centers of the brain, the sections of the brain. That's a very useful technique and I used to teach this as part of a day-long class, an access class in the Body Talk system, when I used to teach classes for them, and I was a practitioner for them, or in that system, for a lot of years. And it's a really good technique. You can use it on yourself, your children, in emergencies, etc. And the brain basically is the supercomputer to the rest of the body. So it knows what to do. So if you wake up in the morning and feel like you're, trudging along and you really want something, a pick me up, you can use this technique, but you can also use it to help calm down stress, to, after a trauma, to kind of pull yourself back in and get grounded again. Also, to go to sleep at night, because the brain knows what time it is. The brain knows what the body needs to be doing. So you don't have to worry about when you're using this technique. If you do this, it helps sort things out in the brain. So then the brain can begin to remember its own job to go sort the rest out in the rest of the body. So I'd like to invite you to tap along with me. This isn't a complete video on how to tap out cortices, but we're going to do a quick one. If you'd like more information in that and you're following along on YouTube, I do provide a link down below I have an ebook that I give for free, and that can get you on a newsletter. I don't spam, I don't send anything out on that, very rarely, but it gives you a way to get in touch with me. And when you have that email access, you can ask me for more information on learning to tap out your cortices, and I can share another video with you that I have. So from right now, we're just going to hold our, let me get in the right part of the camera. Hold your hands like this. We don't want to scatter the fingers right now. So we want to keep them closed, and we want to make sure we get the sides of the brain. You can see just front to back if you can cover that, and set the intent that we're tapping out the different sections of the brain. And then with the closed hand, we're going to put that right in the back at the base of the head. With the open hand, we're going to tap. Pretend you have a center part, and we tap on both sides. Not on one side over here or just in the center, but just tap while you're breathing in and out and relax. And tap the heart and the belly. And we're going to move our hand position up. We're going to do this really briefly. Tap head, heart. Breathe in and out while you're holding the hand positions. And move up the head. Try not to leave any spaces. I'm going to do this for you basically so that it goes a little quicker, because this is not a full lesson in how to tap out cortices, and I want to be very clear about that. And we do want to get one last one to cover the eyebrows. And again, we're going to get the emotional brain by getting the sides there, and we're going to tap the head and heart at the same time. So go ahead and take another deep breath in and out and begin to relax. Again, please know that is not the complete way to tap out cortices. I did a really quick one. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and get into the session. And I think first we're going to look at gallbladder energy, which is in the element of wood in the Chinese 5 elements. The gallbladder is about synthesizing, discernment, planning, deciding, things like that. And this comes in not just in dealing with the unknown. And, sometimes that's a scary place, because a lot of times we start to think, well, I'll stay where I am because better the devil you know than the devil you don't. But is that really serving you? And is it serving you in a bigger way where you can therefore go out and serve others in a bigger way? So looking at gallbladder energy, it's about synthesizing. It kind of is the storage for all experiences. And when we're having trouble dealing with the unknown, or dealing with, quiet space, there's not enough noise, what's going on, then the mind starts to have too much chatter, right? And we want to be able to quiet that mind. We want to be able to stand in our power, because if we're standing in our power, we're better able and more quickly able to quiet the mind. And less often we'll find that we need to quiet the mind because we're already there. I believe this energy would also come into helping us serve the coping and figuring out those competing needs. Having the discernment from the gallbladder energy of not having to worry so much about, well, should I eat or should I sleep, or should I get a nap, or, oh, let me get this done, let me get that done, etc. Because fear comes into that. And when we're having that fear and giving into the fear, I should say, then we're not able to best stand in our own power. From there, we're going to link into a section of the brain, the thalamus as a whole. And the thalamus is divided into many, many, many parts in the brain. But the thalamus, if you would kind of compare it to the sun, the central sun, right? And it's the routing station for sensory input, impulses, or incoming sensory input, except smell. That's a different part of the brain. It connects various brain centers, and it's the major integrative complex. So we want to bring balance and integration, right? Throughout the brain, throughout the body, throughout the mind, to be able to feel better, understand and feel where we have that discernment so that we know what next. What do we feed next? Do we feed the need for sleep? Do we feed the need for work? Maybe it's let me get that task taken care of so that I don't have it weighing on my mind. Maybe it's feeding the belly because we're hungry. And that's important. The body can only heal if it has enough nerve energy. And nerve energy is only regenerated through enough deep sleep where it has that time to regenerate and kind of prepare for that new day, right? But we don't always get that. And we think, oh, let me take a cat nap. That's not always enough. When we don't get enough sleep, quite often the next day, we find we're extra hungry. And that's the body's way of trying to replenish some energy, even if it didn't get the energy that could be restorative and healing. It needs some kind of fuel to operate. So we're tying in with the gallbladder energy to have the discernment to know what we need next. In the moment, it will feel like, how do I cope sometimes? And we need to consider those different things that are coming at us. Sometimes life comes at us from all over the place, right? It gets very scattered. It can lead to lack of sleep. It can lead to poor eating habits. It can lead to depression. How do we handle trauma? How do we handle major things that just happened in our life? How do we handle missing someone? How do we handle sudden loss and sudden death? Those are all issues that can really throw us for a loop and feel like they're throwing us out of our power. Sometimes we don't even know where to begin to find our power. And that's what this is all about, is learning to find that space where we can stand in our own power and be able to move forward with better discernment, that knowing, that deep knowing inside. Not just, I believe, I think, I've been told, oh, let me create a mantra to tell myself over and over until I believe it, but deeply, truly knowing in that heart space. And that's part of what we're going to draw from, is being able to drop down into the heart space, the heart center, because in there's that stillness where we have access to our higher self and knowing the all that is. I feel like next we're going to we're going to stay within the brain for a little bit here. And so the subiculum is where memory is born, but the hippocampus is where we have the short-term memory and where that gets converted into long-term memory. And so we want to kind of look at, I feel like that's coming up because a lot of times memories get stored from when we were itty bitty, when we were very young. Our belief systems form by the time we're age 2 or 3, they're pretty well set just by watching. Oh, when I have a dirty diaper and I cry, someone gives me attention or feeds me. Or, you learn as a baby how the world works, basically, and you form your own belief systems from there. Most all of them are really solid by the time we're 5, and by the time the age of 7 occurs, you're pretty solid on having set all your belief systems for life. And that's just by watching how the world works for ourselves and others, how when we're observing as babies and young children. And then there's a section in the brain that has to do with coordinated action and long-term habits. So we're looking at memory storage, long-term habits, forming belief systems, and we're linking all of those different parts of the brain together um, as kind of one little ball, if you will, and then accessing as well another part of the brain that has to do with, drawing those conclusions as we're forming those memories, as we're forming those belief systems, etc. From there, that's where we're going to link into the heart. The heart is the harmonizer. It integrates. We integrate a lot within the heart. Um, so we were in gallbladder energy. We were in the element of wood, if we're looking at the five elements in Chinese medicine. And then therefore we're linking in with fire to bring a elements balancing within the head brain and heart brain connection. So it's not necessarily within the brain or within the heart, but more the connection between the two to help integrate all of those aspects that we just covered. This will help, I believe, in having more discernment and having more fluidity in the decision making and those processes, if you will, for being able to decide, how do I decide what I need next? How do I sort out all the things that feel like they are competing for the time slot or the energy slot in my life right now? How do I have my needs met, period? How do I get food on the table? Especially if we're struggling with I want to say an acute, maybe not an acute event, but a more recent event where something has happened and we're still having to sort out what is it we need next. Sometimes we just have to think that those things through. Last night we had some big storms pass through here and some tornadoes very near to us. A lot of people lost power. My fence was blown open. I had things in the yard I've still got to go take care of. A lot of destruction, unfortunately. Mine was mild, but some neighbors, it was awful, awful, awful. It looked like um, raccoons got in the street and tore everything apart and threw everybody's garbage cans all over. I hate to laugh about that, but at the same time, if we don't learn to find humor in life, then it's going to drag us down too much. So, basketball goals were turned over, obviously plants, but even tree limbs and things like that, and power lines. And so it can be pretty scary when we have a recent trauma. It feels like that in our lives, whether that happens to you literally or figuratively in life. Maybe it was a sudden event that recently happened. Maybe it's something that's been building up and you're feeling these changes that are happening in the world. Don't feel like you're all alone. There are big changes happening in the world. Yes, from the recent few years' events, but this year alone seems to have brought some energies in that a lot of people around the globe are feeling the same things. So please don't feel alone. Feeling that, how do I make a decision? I know I need to change something in my life. I know I need to move house, or I know I need a different relationship, or I need to get out of this workplace and something into something healthier. I need to move to a completely different area. When we feel like something's just not feeling right and it's not feeding our souls, then we know we need to make that change. And yet we revert back to the better the devil you know than the devil you don't, and we tend to stay stuck in patterns. So we want to get out of those patterns. And going back to learning to tap out our cortices, feel free to send me an email as well, info@wisewomaninevolving.com. And that's info@wisewomanevolving.com, and ask for the balancing the brain video. It's the cortices technique, and I will send that to you and share that, and then you feel free to share that with anyone as well. I may just as well post that on my YouTube account, so that it's available to anyone who wants it as well. Because when we have a tool to utilize, sometimes if we remember, just, or even if you don't have other tools, just remember to breathe. Take a moment and go barefoot in the grass and ground yourself. Take a moment to drink some water. Go outside. Used to be in the old days, people would go outside for a smoke break. Not that that's a healthy thing that we're promoting, but when we don't take a break, we don't give ourselves an excuse to take a break, then we don't have that pause in life. And sometimes that's where the magic is in the pause. Whatever pause that is. Maybe it's time between jobs. Maybe it's time between the drive from work to home. Maybe it's where you go and lock yourself in the bathroom and draw the bath and say, "Do not disturb. I'm unavailable for the next half hour. And the house had better be burning down if I'm going to have to hear a peep." Not that we're wanting that to happen, but you get the picture. We need to have that pause. And it's very helpful to do something grounding outside. But if not, taking a long shower, a bath is very healing. Sometimes people say, "Oh, is that why I get these fresh ideas when I'm just taking a shower?" Yeah, it is, because you have nothing better to do, and the mind can just pause, and the body can just go, and it's time for pause. When we recognize that there is access to the all that is in that pause, even if it's for the little bittiest of a second or a split second, then we're more willing to accept the quiet. We're more willing to step into the unknown. Sometimes stepping into the unknown means we've really got to be brave enough to have that faith. I almost hate to use that word because it's overused quite often, but understand that if we're alive, if we're meant to be alive, that means we are already taken care of. Our next meal, our roof over our head, clothes on our back, our next job, the income, it's going to be provided for. It might come in at the last split second and we don't know where from. But we have to know that life already is taking care of life. To what extent is determined by your own belief systems and what you're willing to accept for yourself and what you're willing to receive for yourself. So sometimes it's a matter literally of taking that next step. And as you're setting your foot down, you're not sure if you're going to land on solid ground, but you have to know that you know that you know without a doubt that there's solid ground to land on. You will have a place to land. You'll be caught. The clouds will catch you. The angels will catch you. I mean, if we're meant to be here, you're already provided for. So stepping into the unknown is scary. When we're looking at the unknown, we do end up feeling like we're getting into these competing needs, and how does all of that get met? How do I know if I'm going to have the finances to meet this and that and that? And what if this comes in? Sometimes it's expect the unexpected, right? And yes, it's best if we can be prepared. However, sometimes we can't prepare for everything. And then we find ourselves not knowing how to cope, not knowing how to choose which of our needs get met first. But again, I'm here to remind you, open yourself to receiving. Just be willing to trust and know that you're already taken care of, because you are. I apologize for I muted my phone, but not the iPad, and I guess it was ringing through there. But we have to know we're already taken care of. When we can begin to at least allow enough wiggle room to accept that there's a possibility that we're already provided for, then it's a little bit easier to take that deep breath and drop down into the heart space. Have that connection between the head brain and the heart brain so that we can bring calm and clarity, hopefully. In that space, we're better able to stand in our own power. From there, we can take charge. From there, we all of a sudden have clarity. Oh, I forgot about this. I have a free coupon for this, and I have, somebody owes me a favor for that. And then we don't seem to have competing needs. We recognize they're already met. We just have to receive them or pick up the phone and say, remember that favor you owe me? I need it. um, or ask a friend to join you for tea or a walk. It's so refreshing to be able to have somebody to walk with through the park or in the neighborhood and just have a little chat. Sometimes that meets our needs as well. That fresh air, sunshine, and movement does the soul a lot of good. From there, it can bring more clarity. When we have that clarity, we are able to see through the layers of depression and climb out a little more easily. And then we're recognizing where maybe we didn't see something before that was available to us. And all of a sudden we're thinking, why didn't I see that? It was right under my nose. We just have to be open. We have to find that little bit of wiggle room, that pause where all the magic is, that pause that is the access to all the information we need to know to be able to provide for ourselves, to be able to know what the next step is, whether it's a major move in life, in career, in relationships, in partnerships, in life and in business, whether it's maybe wanting a change in how we do things in the workplace or in our careers. What if you want to change careers entirely? Having that pause, finding that clarity allows us to stand in our power. And then the unknown isn't always completely unknown. Or if it is, we feel really comfortable with just diving in because we already know we're taken care of. I'm going to check in the chat to see if there's any other. Does anybody have any other questions before we move on? Just in case. I don't see any extra questions. Okay, let's see what else we're going to bring into the session then before we completely finish up. There's a part of the brain that has to do with feeling intensely emotional. And that's coming up. And it feels like it ties into that unknown, which can bring on a state of sadness and depression, even. Obviously, stress and anxiety. So I want to tie that in so that we're making sure to address that aspect as well. And then we're going to go back into that gallbladder energy, back into the wood element, having the vision to see further in life, having the ability to expand, right? So the wood element isn't quite a bit. If you look at the 5 elements in Chinese medicine, it's not quite to the fire element, which is the maximum expansion, but it is coming out of the wintertime, right? And it's coming into a state of expansion where maybe like springtime, where the buds are blooming and the grass is turning green again finally, or the trees are regreening. I love that stage. But that helps us to grow. It helps us to move toward the surface, to kind of be willing to peek our head out from under the covers again and say, I know there's more for me. I just have to be willing to get out of bed today. And so we're going to tap into that energy to be able to move forward, and linking that into the fire energy, the fire element, the heart, to be able to make things happen. The gallbladder energy kind of gives us that catalyst for the actions, right? And then the fire energy, that's the spirit, and that brings us into, yes, there's more discernment, but there's also more knowing. There's this knowing of life, and we're ready to take that action and move forward into the unknown. When we are willing to take those steps, the clarity also comes in to where we don't have that competition for needs, because we take that step, yes, maybe blindly, but we know our needs are already met, and things just happen to fall into place. Maybe we think, do I have the funds to pay my utility bills or eat? Well, my tummy's really hungry, so I'm going to eat first. Just making that decision, moving forward into the unknown, can sometimes make something else happen. The universe is on our side. We have to remember that first and foremost. When we take that action, the universe goes, okay, glad you made the first move. I'm going to make sure your utility bills are paid. Knock, knock, knock. I wonder who could be at my door right now. Hi, Mama. I've been owing you $150 for the longest time, and I keep forgetting. And I was in the neighborhood, and I wanted to pop by and bring it to you. And that pays your utilities. I mean, sometimes we never know where this is going to come from, right? Or perhaps we call the utility company and they say, no, it looks like somebody already paid your balance. We never know. We don't have to know. And that's where the magic in life is. That can come from taking that pause. That can come from taking that step into the unknown. Just trusting. I don't know, but I have to do something, because I'm not going to sit here forever. Because we can choose to sit in that mud puddle forever, and it can last quite a while and it doesn't feel so good. Or we can choose to take the next step and just know that there will be another step and another step. And soon we'll start to recognize, oh, I am okay. Ah, there's more clarity coming in now. And that will even bring calm, so that the mind can drop into the heart space and we can stand in our power even more. We're going to tap that in really quickly. Just take a couple of deep breaths in and out, and just tap over the head and the heart. Anywhere over the chest is fine. Take a sip of water if you need. And then we're going to move into talking about the concept of, it feels like there's an umbrella concept here. Ah, I see what it is. Loving ourselves. So we have relationships in our lives, but we forget that the biggest relationship is relationship to self. Because how we do one thing is how we do everything. Everything is within. Everything. And when we're willing to be quiet, even if it's hard to quiet the mind, just take a few deep breaths and focus on your breath. Listen to yourself breathing in and out. Maybe light a candle and watch the flame. maybe stare at the tip of your nose. That's an Eastern spiritual practice, actually, to stare at the tip of your nose. It appears as though the eyes are closed, but they're not fully. But in that very specific position, more information can come in. It does quiet the mind some. When we're able to get in that quiet space and we recognize that we truly are already provided for, then we're more, we feel stronger, we love ourselves more. And then we feel like we have what it takes to stand in our power. A lot of times we can't stand in our power because we don't love ourselves enough. We have to ask ourselves if we feel worthy. Or are we suffering because we don't feel worthy? You're here. You are here. You are alive. How long have you been on this planet? You must be worthy. You must be valuable. You must be serving in some way. Otherwise, you still wouldn't be here. Trust me. We all have something to contribute. We all have beautiful talents and gifts. We all have love to give. When we start just giving our love, just a smile. When you're making your groceries at the grocery store, you might see somebody grumping along or searching for something. Ask, can I help you find something? Or just give them a smile. Even if they're still marching along kind of grumpy, maybe it made you feel better inside. And you smile at everybody you pass, and somebody's going to catch that and smile back. I've even had people turn around and stop me. At first they were, and then they would walk a few more steps and turn around and go, excuse me, I just noticed you smiled, and I really needed that today. And sometimes that's what we need. But we don't receive it unless we give it. In giving it to others, we are giving it to ourselves. And we have to remember that. Right there, that makes us recognize our own worthiness. That helps us to be able to more easily and more strongly stand in our own power. Because sometimes we need to tell others no. Sometimes we need to set healthy boundaries. And that means we need to stand in our power and say, you know what? I'm not going to take this treatment anymore at work. And we can very kindly and compassionately let those around us who are not treating us well know that that's not okay. Because honestly, they wouldn't do it if we wouldn't accept it. So again, it's inside. Everything starts from within. We have to go within and look a little deeper. Why would I think that of myself? Or why would I not think this or that of myself? Do some searching. Maybe that's your homework. Do a little bit of inner self-exploration. And for those of you on the call, stay on. I'll stop the recording in just a moment. For those of you watching this as a recording, I will put links in the description below. If you'll click on that, in the description or the title, it should say more at the end. If you click on that, you'll be able to read more. You can go to info@wisewomaninevolving.com and send me an email. I'm happy to discuss things further with you. I'm also considering setting up other groups that maybe we can have special focus for. I used to enjoy doing like 4 or 6 week groups. And that was a lot of fun where we can focus on 1 or 2 things in particular. Any other information, feel free to contact me at info@wisewomaninevolving.com. I'm happy to help. Just reach out. And again, I can send you the video. I think I'm going to go ahead and publish that publicly on YouTube so you can look it up. It's something, it might be labeled cortices or tapping out your cortices or something like that. So look for that. That was a very early video. It was from several years back, but the information is still really good, really useful, really helpful. And so if you're on the call with me, hang on. I'm just going to stop the recording. But until next time, if you're watching the video, be well and thank you.